pieces are certainly there. It's just all about putting them in the right places and making this composition really sing. We'll see what the compositions are going to be now as we work our way through the draft. It's Rise, first banned by the side of 100 Thieves. Pretty common ban to see these days.
Yeah, it definitely is. Rise, really strong flex pick, great in the side lanes, gives you a lot of ability to move around the map as well with the ultimate. We've seen people pull off Baron plays with it, so certainly is very strong. And despite the fact that the kind of Aatrox changes were really targeted at keeping it a pro play, people are still feeling that is more than strong enough. You know, and the new ultimate gives you a tremendous amount of healing when that is active. So certainly from ahead, I think it's one of the most dominant champions in the game right now.
The Dive Cat also going to be banned away. I call it that because it's really good with divers, and you also can't dive it because it jumps into somebody else. So Dive Cat, no more of that. Yuumi is banned out.
I'll take it.
Second time around here from 100 Thieves. They don't want to be playing against that one. Let's see what OpTic Gaming wants to continue banning out here. It will be Silas. Those flex picks, oh so strong.
Yeah, they certainly are. You know, in the meta right now, that was really established at MSI. We saw so much priority on flex picks. You could add things like Aurelia, like Akali to that same kind of list as well. Taric going to be taken off the table, not wanting to see a repeat of what TSM showed us last time that they just played. So it'll be interesting to see if OpTic just doesn't ban out one of those final flex picks and tries to trade, or if they do something like an Akali ban to just kind of keep maybe the stronger of the flex picks off the table.
I still got 2 seconds left to decide. Gonna have to make that choice here in just a moment. And OpTic get rid of the Irelia. So yep, plenty of attention towards those flexes.
Yeah, it certainly is. Akali is still available if 100 Thieves wanted to early pick something like that. They do have the ability to go for it, and that is going to be the pick. That was kind of the last priority one that had been left on the table. So it is going to be grabbed up, and they'll have the advantage of OpTic not really being sure where it's going to go.
Let's see how OpTic want to respond to this. The Wukong Hover, a pretty known thing from them, so don't expect that one to be taken too seriously now. We'll see if they want to try to go toe-to-toe with the Akali here with an early pick lock-in, or if they want to go elsewhere. Looks like they will look elsewhere. The Nautilus often seen in the support position, and that's probably going to go to big.
Yeah, definitely expecting it to be down to big. Did play it yesterday in their win, but you know, you always have to kind of give the respect over the pick that it could be flexed around. There is possibility of seeing it elsewhere. MSI Plains, we did see it shown in the mid lane, but this is the exact duo, I believe, that they played yesterday in their game. So certainly expecting this to be the picks for Arrow and Big. And they ran yesterday this comp with Xayah for Arrow, and then essentially 3 frontliners and a TF, right? And with so much onus on Arrow to really be their big damage dealer, and they were able to make it work. So it'll be interesting to see if they just kind of go back to that, playing very, very heavy frontline.
The lock-in for 100 Thieves will be the Sejuani and the Sivir. So they went for that Akali first. They've got something really good at diving, finding damage into the back lines, but they've also got a nice front line here too with the Sejuani. Sivir, of course, good for anybody who wants to move forward thanks to the On the Hunt. And we're going to see Jarvan locked in for OpTic.
Yeah, going to be really good for those team fights with the speed up ultimate, but also for the laning phase. It's quite nice to be able to actually just kind of have this relatively self-sufficient 2v2. When you do park Sivir down in the bottom lane, you can farm out a lot of these lanes, play relatively safely. Jarvan does give OpTic more of an ability to play aggressive in the early stages than the Sejuani does. We'll see if Meteos is going to be able to kind of make good on that, as you do already have a lot of gank assists set up with Dokla on this Nautilus, or rather with Big likely on the Nautilus.
Nautilus lanes are great for any jungler to want to gank. I mean, even if you're something that has no CC threat whatsoever, if you're a Master Yi, you love to gank a Nautilus lane just because of the fact that it's so easy with the setup the champion provides. But this also means because OpTic has their support locked in, because 100 Thieves does not, OpTic can freely target the support pool with their bans, the Braum and Thresh band away. But 100 Thieves are still saying, okay, we're respecting that Nautilus can be a flex by banning out the Rakan.
And this is back-to-back days now that not only have they grabbed an early Nautilus intended for support, they have also drawn a Rakan ban because, as you say, people are worried about giving over that potential pick there. You know, Tahm Kench certainly not expecting it to be grabbed up, but it could be as an answer to that Sejuani if they want to move the Nautilus to mid. Tahm Kench top, also something that's actually showing up a lot in solo queue these days, but again, not something that we're really expecting to see a lot of in pro. Hasn't really been shown just yet, and it likely will be the Jace going top lane. Could be flexed mid for Crown, but this is kind of back more to what they were doing in spring, where it was a lot about split pushers for Dokla. And now we'll have to kind of see, are they actually going to play around him? Because very often, they put him on a split pusher, they had this sort of win condition, and didn't really play to it.
And as 100 Thieves hover over the Ornn, I'm thinking that'll probably be going top, and that means the Akali would be mid.
It could also be support, because we have seen some Ornn support. Notably, JJ, I believe, was playing a fair bit of it in spring. That is certainly a very effective scaling support. Does give you a lot of potential late game power, but for supports to get enough levels under their belt to really get those item upgrades is difficult, so I am expecting it also to be top. But either way, 100 Thieves really locking in a tremendous amount of late game. So this is going to be interesting. Very likely will be Morgana. Being able to answer that Nautilus in the bot lane is really, really strong. Nautilus is going to have a hell of a time trying to get on top of Sivir through Spell Shield as well as Black Shield.
Oh, yeah.
The Nautilus ultimate is one of the most obvious skills in the game. It takes so long to travel out, and the animation is very loud, so you should almost always be able to actually answer that, with the Black Shield.
And it looks like Vladimir is going to be the pick here for the side of OpTic Gaming, deciding to take that one into a solo lane.
Yeah, I think then you put Vladimir top, likely against the Ornn. We could see it mid as well, as an answer to the Akali. But I always kind of like if you have one different damage type. You have physical damage from Jace, Jarvan, as well as Xayah, right? So if you put the Vladimir into the matchup against the Ornn and you force early MR, that can be a very effective way at making the Ornn weaker when it comes to team fights, since everyone else is going to be dealing physical damage. That being said, it does look like it will be Jace top and Crown piloting that Vladimir from the mid lane, but last second swap, so cool.
Swapping around 20 seconds, I believe, is the deadline.
Swap back.
So we've swapped back. It will be Dokla on the Jace. As you said, though, this is Dokla back on a split pusher. This is Dokla playing a champion that his team is going to need to invest in, specifically Meteos. We're looking at him to invest in making sure this Jace can be successful on split pushing, because if Meteos ignores this lane and Sejuani stops by the sporting goods store, walks through the outdoorsman aisle, picks up a nice tent, and sets up camp right there in the top lane, Jace isn't going to be split pushing.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to be having a lot of fun there. You do not want to allow Ornn to get far ahead in this matchup, because it becomes so easy to rinse and repeat with the Ornn ultimate, knocking him down time and time again. We're going to have to find out how they're going to be able to handle this one.
Game number 5 of the day. 100 Thieves looking to grab themselves a win here, get on the board, be 1-1 at the end of week 1 here. But for OpTic Gaming, 2-0 would also be a really good feeling coming out of the first week of play here, a summer split. This was a team that, although they didn't make it into playoffs in spring, still were able to find plenty of wins for themselves, and a few extra here, a couple more there, they could make a push.
Yeah, they were only a couple games back of a lot of those playoff teams, so certainly, if they can make these improvements, they didn't make the roster swaps, but if they have improved the cohesion of their team, if they're working together better, that is certainly something that would be very, very promising for the squad. And you can see Conquer on both Dokla and Meteos. Thing makes a lot of sense when you're likely going to be dealing with Ornn and Sejuani. Those are kind of these long, extended trades that you're going to be taking. You're not going to be bursting them down. But the fact that he is going Conqueror tells me that it is more kind of that committed split push style. Very likely you see people going for things like Airy or even sometimes Phase Rush, and that is more when they want to kind of build lethality and group and poke, and they're just kind of using the Jace to shove side lanes. This feels more like kind of Blade of the Rune King, Black Cleaver type setup. We'll see if that's what they want to commit to, though.
Other keystones look pretty par for the course. Someday we'll be running the Summoner Spellbook, so be looking out for swaps to other spells for fighting in 2v2s in the top side, or even an extra smite around a big objective.
Yeah, I mean, early Ignite can be really powerful if you're having, committed 2v2. That can be pretty devastating. Grabbing an Ignite from that Summoner Spellbook can really turn the tides of those types of fights.
Both junglers will be starting on the top side of the map here. Oftentimes, since the Scuttle Crab changes, you do see junglers going red into Krug's start because, as I've already stated before, you want to get that high-value camp cleaned up and on its cooldown timer as fast as possible to maximize your EXP gain. But Amazing wants to start at the blue. We'll see how this affects how the junglers interact and where they head here.
Yeah, and actually very interesting because neither jungler is going to be doing that. Meteos started up on that top side, but he's actually going red to blue and potentially setting up for an early bot side gank, or to even kind of threaten at the red buff for a triple buff. So we'll see how they're going to be able to do that, but nice early trading here so far from the side of the OpTic bottom lane.
Meteos picks up his blue. He'll be at full HP by the time he's done with it, sweeping through the river. He's going to be making a surprise entrance here into the bottom side. 100 Thieves hitting level 2. Just as Big and Arrow will also find their own level 2. Meteos shows up, Afro Moon, nice timing, waiting on the flash, making sure he gets away from Meteos.
But that was a great flag and drag from Meteos, actually holding it until they're both lined up. He forced out both flashes by repositioning himself behind Fang and then threatening the flag and drag through to Afro Moon. So very effective early pathing here from Meteos, making use of that Nautilus gank assist we talked about, and already getting a nice summoner advantage down on that bottom side, because that is a tough 2v2 for the side of OpTic, but without flashes, 100 Thieves cannot play aggressive.
That's the kind of jungle presence you want to see. Yeah, it's not a kill, but when you're up against a Nautilus lane, you're just going to sit under turret if you don't have those summoner spells ready to go, and that means things will be comfortable for OpTic down here in the bottom side. They can let Arrow scale up to be that big damage dealer that they wanted him to be yesterday. Now, of course, you have some insurance policies this time around in terms of Dokla and Crown also being able to dish out massive damage as the game goes on, but this is a comfortable place to be for Arrow and Big.
Yep, definitely is going to be feeling pretty good about that. But at the same time, you know, amazing. Wanting to just kind of farm up on this Sejuani really is more of that kind of power up to 6 style jungler. You can make things happen pre-6 sometimes, but it kind of relies more on mistakes from your opponents, them posturing aggressively. But it's actually a 3-man potential play here towards this mid lane. They're looking at Soligo.
Going after Soligo as Meteos draws Amazing's attention over off to the side, and Dokla brings down the hammer.
What a good roam there from Dokla. They knew the Shroud was down from Soligo, so they just commit to the play. They were looking for a 3-man dive, but Meteos is kind of headed off by Amazing. The two solo laners just make it happen anyway. You love to see that sort of early aggression from Dokla. You know, if they're not going to play up to the top side, he shoves in top lane and then just comes right down the mid.
And that's one of the consequences I wanted to talk about as well, so that pressure being applied bottom. We'll hit it up here after we see the replay. You can see the smoke probably come out here in just a second.
Yep, that was it. We're dropped right there. So it was actually used in this kind of aggressive trade from Crown. The wave is coming in. They know he does not have it, and they're able to set up Shock Blast over the wall from Dokla. Nailed in auto. E for the damage to follow that up. Now on the bottom side, Afromu's got to be careful.
Here we go again. Afromu having to back away. Still loses 2/3 of his HP. And there's Meteos' early effort paying dividends. They know on a side of 100 Thieves they can't try to fight back because they're down those summoner spells. That means OpTic is constantly going to be pressuring down here. And this also means Amazing knows he's having to lose something bottom lane by being up here. It's not an even fight. Dokla's now going to be finding himself dived onto as Amazing and Someday cannot make the play happen. Meteos shows up to make it a fair fight into a 2v2. And Dokla will not be forced off of the turret and miss this EXP critically.
Yeah, Meteos is going to have to stay around until they actually clear out this whole wave, though, because this is still pretty risky business, and you can't afford to give up all this experience. Dokla played that pretty well, actually, when Someday took aggro of the turret. You'll notice he knocked Someday back towards the turret to keep that turret aggro on the same player to really kind of threaten that return damage on any sort of potential extended play. So they will be able to pick up most of that CS, will go back to base, and OpTic going to be feeling good about their situation for now. Dokla, though, is going some early lethality. You know, does actually grab that serrated Dirk, so this may not be that kind of hard commit split push style that I was more expecting. Could be more just grabbing Ghostblade, grabbing lethality, and looking to push up the wave, and then group with his team.
We'll keep track of his itemization as the game goes forward. Also want to comment on, you can see in the inventories of both Dokla and Arrow, a Fairy Charm picked up by these two players. It's a pretty common thing you see nowadays, but for those of you who aren't familiar with it, no, they're not actually building items that require the Fairy Charm. You buy it for 125 gold, you sell it for 88, so it ends up costing less than a potion, and it gives you a lot of mana regeneration. It is essentially just a janky version of a mana pot since mana pots were removed from the game.
Yep, exactly. It's just a little bit of an investment, you know, in that kind of early laning phase, you know, maintaining a bit higher mana. You know, Jaces have pretty much completely moved away from the old tier build that we used to see. People feel like it takes too long to come online.
Yeah.
They want the early power of the Jace. So this is a little bit of kind of making some amends to that, trying to grab a little bit of mana without spending too much gold.
Not quite a tier, just a little bit of water in your eye. Not that big of a deal, but he'll have plenty of mana to keep harassing that Ornn there in the top side. He is down farm right now thanks to the investment into the top side from Amazing. Amazing with the Bomby Cinder plus jungle item in inventory, waiting to turn those into a Cinder Hulk. You can see Meteor's going to be going for Cinder Hulk this game as well on the Jarvan. Will not be one of those warrior Jarvans that goes for the super power ganks early on into the game, but he will be that much more of a meatball as we move forward.
And I just want to highlight all this deep vision that we have seen come out here from OpTic. On this quadrant of the map, there's 4 wards, including a pink, sitting in there, and that is going to be so difficult for Amazing to actually circumvent. Anytime he's on that side of the map, you will know where he is because they're covering all the camps. And if you don't see him, guess where he is? He's on the top side of the map. So you really do, with that complete vision on one side of the map, have a complete picture of where he could be. And this means Dokla should be aware of the fact that Amazing could be up there, and that's why he's playing fairly defensively. But the wave is pushing away from him, so it is scary.
Trying to force this dive here into the top side. Amazing does have his ulti, but with the TP coming down from the side of OpTic,
Arrow.
100 Thieves are backing themselves away. Arrow made his way into the top lane. Not quite able to find the root, except at the very end there, they will get it. Dokla's going to be taken low, but Amazing's taken down. It's a 1-for-1 so far. Meteos makes his way into the fight, dropping the dunk. Cataclysm comes through. Meteos looking to provide some further damage. Another root comes in. Arrow needs one more auto. And OpTic Gaming turn it around.
How about the TP flank from your AD up to the top lane? Giving the top laner taste of his own medicine.
That's how the tables turn on 100 Thieves. Big's going to be just sitting underneath the turret now, absorbing a beating from Bang and Afromoo, but OpTic are fine with that because of the play. They could turn around, circumvent that aggro, and make this dive go their way.
And I love this. I mean, Dokla already playing very far back, so you're certainly respecting the potential. That Amazing could be up there. We highlighted the vision, but this TP comes through right behind him on the minion. Arrow shows up, able to just barely get that root with the last feather. Really nicely done by him, grabbing that onto Amazing. Then, despite the fact that Dokla goes down, there's no flash after the Ornn is followed by the ultimate, so he can't actually escape from the Cataclysm.
Uh-oh. As we jump back to modern day, Big just barely gets out by the skin of his teeth on that one. Afromoo's Ignite almost takes him down.
Not even close.
Yeah, that's what you put in the alt chat, right?
Had way more HP than he needed.
Unfortunately, we don't get to see the alt chat in these games, but Dokla will continue pushing up here into the top side, back even on the farm with that Ornn, but it's kind of the situation of Jace. Remember, a Jace lane going even isn't actually even. It's the other guy winning the lane because of the way Jace is supposed to just smash the opposing laner. So the investment topside from Amazing is giving them that at least in terms of keeping Someday close in the farm. But when you look at the other lanes, even though Arrow teleported to the top side, he's still ahead 10 farm over his lane opponent.
Yeah, I mean, and that was thanks to a lot of the early jungle intervention from Meteos, right? So, both these guys have been kind of making their mark on opposite sides of the map. Meteos certainly, got a lot done, forcing out the double summoners early on. And then the OpTic bottom lane has played well with that lead. And now looking perhaps for Amazing.
Meteos going in. Amazing has his flash to get away over the wall if he wants to. Big goes in with the hook, but Amazing will pop that summoner spell to get himself away. Crown maintaining control over the mid lane here. Critically at the level 9 for the Vlad. That means rank 5 transfusion. That means constant spell spam, and Saligo's having a rough time dealing with it.
Yeah, he really is. Saligo isn't being able to kind of get access to the wave to really kind of heal up as much as he would be liking. He really does kind of need some more sustain. He's going to be building very likely towards that Gunblade, which will help him out in this matchup. But Vlad has a lot of ways to really deal with the Shroud coming out from Akali. You go into the Shroud, you can still hit the E, you still have the full damage that can come through, and you're kind of able to get, thanks to that delay on going back into the Viz, you're almost always able to get your transfusions off on Akali when she's kind of dipping in and out. So Vladimir can be a pretty effective matchup, and unless Akali is ahead and can threaten it all in, Vladimir is going to kind of have the run of the lane.
Meteos now sees the opportunity to start up the Mountain Drake. Clean this one up rather easily on his own. Jarvan with a full completed Cinder Hulk won't have too much difficulty with it as Arrow moves over to make sure they're able to take control of this. As you can see, pings from OpTic at the same time coming down into the Rift Herald pit saying, all right, if 100 Thieves isn't here, they've got to be there. But 100 Thieves will pick up this objective before OpTic can interfere.
Yeah, and 100 Thieves make the early lane swap. If they had the losing lane, they're going up to the top side, and Crown looking like he wants to go in.
He drops the Hemo Plague, more damage coming through. Big's gonna go ahead, succeed in popping the Black Shield, but Someday still gets over the wall with the Blast Cone. And that's a nice disengage coming out from 100 Thieves, but OpTic now possesses control over the mid lane, and they'll grab more plates.
Yep, they are going to get at least one plate there, but still certainly a very nice play for 100 Thieves. They make the rotation with their bottom lane up to the Rift Herald. are able to grab that, and they also got flash ulti, out of big. The TP and ult came down from Crown, so certainly going to be feeling good about how that fight did end up.
3-1 for OpTic Gaming, a bit over a 2,000 gold lead, 12 minutes in. Sounds like the recipe of a good early game here to me. Dokla still farming up in the top side, should have enough money to go back, complete that first lethality item.
You do always have to remember, though, how good the team fighting can be later on here for 100 Thieves. They have multiple really strong frontliners. They have good forms of engage. You have the Black Shield to protect Bang, who is going to get really, really strong eventually on this Sivir. And you have, the scaling made even more powerful by this Ornn, who's going to be able to upgrade your items. Once you hit that level 13, 14 kind of mark, you're starting to bring in those upgrades. So if they are allowed to have time to kind of get back into this game, 100 Thieves can look very good, but OpTic want to continue to push the pace.
Amazing, trying to push out into the river here, clear away some of this vision. He's got Aframu next to him, so he's not really afraid of getting jumped on or picked off thanks to the Black Shield. As Saligo tries to just keep farming up here mid, still only sitting on pieces of Gunblade, critically not having the innate heal off of everything you do passive. As Arrow just farms up in the top side, not wanting to put himself in any risk of danger. He knows he's got no allies nearby right now. He's got Meteos and Big both hanging around that top half of the map, but it's not quite close enough. 1v1 in the bottom lane as Someday returns some damage onto Dokla, and we'll both disengage here.
Yeah, to get the ultimate out there. Did have the Summoner heal if he needed it, so just a bit of a trade back and forth. But as Someday starts to pick up more CDR, that can become more effective, looking for these aggressive plays. If you work towards something especially like an Iceborne, you really can start to win these trades against lethality Jace when you're building flat armor.
Crown will eat a little bit of damage from Saligo. His transfusion was out. Saligo wisely waiting to jump out of the Shroud and poke the Vlad as the empowered transfusion disappears. The difference between the normal one and the buffed one is incredible. So he wants to prevent Crown from being able to effectively trade with that. As bottom side, Amazing is set up to maybe make a play here. I don't know if they want to think about a dive or just going to drop the Shelly. She will be summoned up, but unfortunately it's 15 past the 14-minute mark, which means there will be no plate money on this.
But at the very least, they can try to threaten first turret. I'm not sure that they're actually going to be able to get it, but it will be very, very low. So potential to pick that up later on. But yeah, you really do want to see that drop pre-14 in most games. There are opportunities sometimes where you can find a window to get some kills and then get multiple turrets with a Shelly drop. But pre-14 is just so much value. 2 plates is essentially a kill there. So it's always going to feel good to kind of get some of that guaranteed gold.
Pre-14-minute Shelly practically becomes what Old Dragon used to be in League of Legends before the buffs were introduced into the game, and it just gave global gold to the team. Gave you about, I think, 125 gold per player, so 625 total. Obviously, you're not getting that much from just 2 plates, but you're still getting a nice pile of gold for plenty of people on the team. Feels good.
And one of the things that's kind of nice about that is that, yes, you don't get as much total gold, but you can actually dedicate it all to one click, right? So you can drop the Rift Herald and then leave the lane as the jungler and have that all go in the pocket of one of your players to kind of give them a nice little boost. But at the very least, they will cash in on that first turret. So keeping this gold lead within striking distance, they are still 2k down, but they're looking stronger as time goes on. You can see the Essence Reaver has come through for a Sivir. She's going to be feeling pretty good about that. And CDR starting to be purchased up here by Someday, who does have that Glacial Shroud. So they are starting to get kind of the makings of what would be their potential team fight.
Arrow continues to just clear away the waves here as Bang looks for the chance to throw an auto attack onto the turret, but will not find a moment for even one. Arrow's wave clear, plenty good enough with the feathers there, and because both of these 80 carries have Essence Reaver, mana's not going to be a problem anytime soon.
No, it definitely won't, and you can see Essence Reaver marksmen are becoming more and more popular. Xayah, Sivir certainly have been big mainstays in the LCS so far this split. Having the Rage Blade kind of be hit a little bit, as well as, these crit marksmen, by association are becoming more powerful, right? So people are really seeing the value of this, and it can set you up for a very, very strong 3-item build because you have the Essence Reaver IE plus a Zeal, you have a tremendous amount of crit, and you really are online for any sort of team fighting.
And when we saw the plate update just a couple of moments ago, it's actually a very low plate game. Only 3 plates to 2 in the overall count between the teams. We've seen some pretty impressive counts today, up in the double digits of plates taken.
12 earlier today.
Yeah, pretty low action in terms of the turret plates that we've seen being secured by these two sides, but still about a 2,000 gold lead for OpTic. 100 Thieves have managed to stop that bleeding, but haven't really recovered any ground over their opponents. As Saligo goes in onto Crown, drops the smoke, keeps himself alive. He's got backup coming in. Binding not going to find anyone coming out there from Aframu. Crown is going to back away, use this opportunity to heal up with transfusions. Meteos and Someday getting in a scrap over these golems. Meteos not with a smite available to secure one if they get in a fight over the last bit of the health bar there. Looks like the big golem's just going to get impatient. Why'd you move me away from my house? I'm going to run back. As Dokla's in some trouble, he will be beaten down. Amazing and Aframu in the 2v1.
Yeah, nice pick. You know, he was trying to head back up to top lane, it looked like, to try to stop Bang on this push. So across the map, they will trade a tower, but 100 Thieves does go positive a kill. You see Aframu amazing, able to grab that kill. Now they're trying to pressure here mid lane. Aframu is around though, and you can have multiple members coming up. And Saligo does have the Gunblade now, so we'll see if the matchup starts to turn whatsoever, as he can really start to sustain through a lot of what Vlad is dishing out.
Brown running away towards that bottom side there. He knows he's got Arrow nearby to run to. Even if somebody else from 100 Thieves was waiting, it would have at least been an even fight. The Thieves will shove out the mid lane, try to relieve some pressure here onto Saligo, who has multiple people constantly trying to shove this turret in. You can see it's down to 1/3. OpTic really want to just take this thing off the map, open up some more of the 100 Thieves jungle to move themselves into, and push this game forward. Here's how Dokla got caught.
Yeah, and critically you can see Sivir up in the top lane. He is heading up there to try to stop that turret from being taken, but you have no vision in that area. That is a very risky path to take instead of kind of going the long way around. He decided to take that risk and gets punished for it. So 100 Thieves getting a nice pick for themselves, and you know, again, they are kind of whittling away slowly at this gold lead. It's only 1.5k now. You know, they were down over 2,000 gold, 6 minutes ago. So at this point in the game, it's not really a significant lead for OpTic, so it's going to come down to execution. And they do have a strong composition of their own. Vladimir and Xayah scale great into the later stages, but I still do really like the ease of execution on the side of the 100 Thieves. You have Sivir, you have multiple frontliners, you have this Ornn scaling, and you're kind of being bought time for all of that.
And I almost feel like we might see a team fight soon. You can see Someday just switched over to the Cleanse with Summoner's Spellbook. He's either just trying to cycle spells, going to use it for free to just get the cooldowns, or they're planning on a big fight breaking out. Saligo is going to fall victim to the Hemo Plague there. Crown looking to finish him off. Saligo flashing away, running back towards enemy lines, just wasting all their time. Meteos wants to go into the EQ combo to try to follow up here. Goes for the Cataclysm. Saligo's keeping himself alive only for a little bit longer. Probably not enough sustain to get away from this one, and no sir. Meteos grabs himself another kill.
Yeah, they do get that kill, but unfortunately for 100 Thieves, not really able to capitalize on any of that time spent. The only thing they really get is this minion wave that kind of has been shoved in down here. So yeah, you're going to lose these minions, but that's not really that big of a deal. Still a good job by Saligo to delay as long as he could. But Arrow was in the mid lane to wave clear there, and Ornn doesn't really have the kill pressure on a turret, despite that fact he got it pushed up.
Worth pointing out, too, the sheen in the inventory for Someday shows that he is going for that Frozen Fist, that Iceborne Gauntlet build that you were talking about earlier. Makes him very effective at dueling against the Jace that went lethality first item. Black Cleaver coming up next for Dokla means that he will be more effective at fighting that tank as time moves forward. But considering the heavy armor itemization from the Ornn, you're going to need to see a Black Cleaver and other split push specific items to really be successful against this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Blade of the Rune King becomes pretty important, as you can kind of even just get poked down a little bit by the Ornn, as funny as that sounds. You know, the Q harass becomes pretty annoying when you do have a high amount of CDR on that Ornn. Plus, as he hits level 13, he's going to have the double upgrade on the Iceborne and the Sunfire, and that's, essentially an effective 2,000 extra gold kind of in his pocket. So that really can kind of throw the matchup towards the Ornn.
If OpTic wants to try to make a play on this mid lane tier 1 here. They're continuing to try to pressure, but 100 Thieves has held strong, and they will not stop anytime soon. Amazing and Aframu. We've seen them together a lot so far this game, prowling around the jungle together. Aframu protecting Amazing as he tries to move forward, move up the vision line, make sure that jungler stays safe, protected with a black shield.
And that is certainly something that's very important, right? You want to see those two guys working well together. In competitive, it's extremely important for your support and jungler to have good synergy, to be moving around the map and communicating well together. And it's now 100 Thieves feeling that they're in a strong position, grouping up here mid lane, 5-man strong, trying to pressure this turret.
Binding onto Meteos would stop him from engaging anytime soon. Dokla off to the side. Crown has teleport to make his way into the fight, but remember, he would still be on a bit of a delay if it broke out on 100 Thieves terms. So OpTic doesn't want to allow that, trying to play this one safe.
Yeah, you can see Someday now has those double upgrades, has the barrier available right here with the Summoner Spellbook, so he would be really tanky if a fight does break out. As you said, Sligo has to go up to the top side, though, to kind of deal with this side wave, and 100 Thieves may just have to try to go over to this dragon, but now it's TP coming in here from Crown.
Crown's deciding this is the battleground. Someday, Black Shielded manages to walk himself away for now. Nautilus ulti chase after him. The Black Shield expires just in time for the knockup to still connect, but the Blast Cone will get Someday away to safety, and OpTic will not find their fight.
Yeah, that's a great disengage from 100 Thieves. Doesn't cost them any summoners. And yeah, Someday gets knocked a little bit low, but he can just walk straight back over here. That's a TP off of Crown. So Ligo just roams to join the fight, so they should be out on the map with potential to challenge for this dragon still, if it does break out.
Nautilus ulti down for the next minute or so. 100 Thieves know that's a thing. However, they also don't have their Sivir ultimate.
Yeah, an Aphromoo. Gotta be careful there.
Pretty big resources not available. So Ligo dropped down below half HP as well. It's going to be hard for the Akali to do his job in this next team fight. Shock Blast not hitting the mark just yet. Here goes Someday. He's able to find the knockoff onto Dokla. That's going to be your initiation, and 100 Thieves will immediately find two. Arrow gets himself away, but it's a double kill not only over to the Thieves, but to the one man you really wanted on. Bang, cashes in.
Yeah, that is so big. And this ward over the wall above the red buff right there was so big. They're actually trying to TP out, so the TP for the escape does come through, but that ward was so important. They got vision on the fact that Crown and Meteos were looking for the flank. So instead of actually sitting around, they just hard engage onto him.
And now we've got Meteos engaging here in the mid lane. A teleport coming in. Tier 1 turret still under pressure. Crown's going to find himself rooted up. A lot of CC coming down. Emo Plague is used. Still looking for the opportunity to maybe find some more chains. You see the stun come through. Amazing, looking to grab more damage. Instead, he's likely going to be brought down here. Arrow looking to grab that kill, but it's Meteos who gets it. Arrow is ignited, but it will not fell him this time. Just a little bit too shy on the damage, about 100 or so. 1 for nothing. OpTic get the pick there.
Yeah, and that is a big pick for them. Taking the jungler off the map, but they don't have the health bars to really threaten anything like a follow-up Baron. But again, that was just a great team fight there from 100 Thieves, noticing Crown and Meteos split off from the rest team looking for a flank. So this ward was down from Aphromoo. They should know that is warded. They saw that get placed, but yet they're waiting over here. They are spotted. 100 Thieves just hard engage away from that squad, dropping the Ornn ultimate, the ultimate from Sejuani as well. And they run down multiple members here from OpTic, and there's no chance for Crown and Meteos to really get anything done by the time they enter the fight.
And you can see Someday's inventory now. Forge Fire Cape and Frozen Fist. I have to hover over these items every single time I look at them because we don't see them that often. But Forge Fire Cape and Frozen Fist, both going to be upgraded there now in the Ornn's inventory. We're at the point of the game where every subsequent level means a subsequent upgrade for someone on the team, which makes 100 Thieves scaling come to full force now.
Exactly. I mean, when you see that Infinity Edge come through from Bang, that's likely going to be around the same timing, and he'll just be able to make it a Golden Edge.
Here comes your initiation. Ulti for Ornn, traded out for the ulti from Xayah. The key difference is the Ornn ulti has an 87-second cooldown. The Xayah ulti has 100. Although that's not an incredible difference, it does mean that there will be a slight window of time they could try to force something again.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I mean, someday, even if you just look at it as a zoning ultimate, they want to pressure that turret. You throw down the ult, you have to back off as Arrow, and you can't really take these types of team fights as Arrow without that ultimate available, because you're not going to be able to stay safe from the likes of the Akali if you don't have kind of that self-peel with your ultimate.
Not when the Ornn Horn is also running you down. As soon as Akali can follow that up and know the Xayah doesn't have a get-out-of-jail-free card, which she actually has 2 of in inventory, thanks to the fact that she has the stopwatch, pair that with the ulti, it makes it very hard to get on top of her. Stopwatches are also available on many members for 100 Thieves.
One thing certainly working in the favor of OpTic, though, is how strong Crown is. I mean, he is very far ahead of his lane opponent, over 2,000 gold up on Soligo. He has a 70 CS lead. Yes, there was a lot of pressure towards that mid lane, but Crown has also done a good job to really kind of extend that. And he is getting to a very, very strong point in the game himself. He has so much AP on. He already has the Spellbinder. He's working towards a death cap, so this is like a flat AP one type of combo build, right? If you were able to get on top of some of these squishy champions and get your full rotation off once, they die from full health.
Yeah, Afromu would just pop. Even through his black shield, most likely, because of the raw power of the damage. 76 stacks on the Spellbinder, too, means he's almost up to that maximum potential for the next fight that breaks out. Next Drake will be Mountain. We know Baron is alive. 27 minutes of the game. That becomes an increasingly likely possibility for these teams to go towards. But you can see nobody actually has any vision over the pit from either side right now. 100 Thieves do have some vision down in the northern part of the jungle there from OpTic Gaming, keeping an eye on if they're moving towards it, but they don't know about what's actually there.
Yeah, and that is really, really important to be able to kind of keep eyes on this, especially at this point in the game. And this really, is feeling more kind of like OpTic from Spring a little bit to me, I have to say. When you have OpTic split pushing through their top laner, they very rarely play heavily around him, so Dokla is kind of built a little bit for the split push, but it's mostly just been used to push out waves and then back off. But there's really good engage on the side of 100 Thieves, so Dokla doesn't have the confidence to really pressure these turrets, and they're just ending up having this Jace team fight over and over again, which is a situation that you're going to be pretty happy about, I feel like, for 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves falling a little bit further behind in terms of gold, 3,000 now, but when you compare a 3,000 deficit at 28 minutes to a 2,000 deficit at 12 minutes, you're just fine with it. Yeah. Compared to the amount of time that's passed, the amount of gold that you've lost in comparison, it's no big deal at all. You've got your Thornmail completed onto Amazing now, so it's that much harder for everybody except for the Vlad to kill this Sejuani. Ornn now also has the Gargoyle Stone Plate, so he's just a massive wall in these fights.
And he has 2 upgrades ready and waiting for his teammates to actually complete some of these items. So in a couple hundred more gold when Bang gets the IE, that is an enormous power spike in and of itself. That is going to be turned into that Molten Edge, made that much stronger. As Soligo gets an item ready, they can look for that as well. But 100 Thieves want to engage now.
Here we go. Arrow's in some trouble. Has to use the ulti to get himself away. Sivir ult popped too, so that's 80 carry ulti for 80 carry ulti. Dokla off to the side, not going to be under any pressure, but the top tier 2 is going to be taken down by Crown.
Yep, just Crown in the side lane, so that is what is forcing 100 Thieves to try to take some sort of a fight, and they're going to now go to this Dragon. You can see Meteos grouping up here with Crown, similar to kind of what their strategy was yesterday with the TF, where they have Crown heavily in the side lane, and they're bringing Meteos over to often kind of shadow him, keep him safe, and also threaten any potential 2v1s. So 400 Thieves, you have to kind of make a decision. Do you just park Soligo in a side lane to answer, or do you try to hard engage on the 4-man squad? And thus far, they have been kind of settling on looking for the hard engage.
Crown level 16, level 14 of Soligo. He's about to hit 15, so it won't be quite as bad, but still a pretty I used the wrong word.
It's a real big lead.
Yeah, a real big lead. That's the thing we're looking for. Crown, very scary. Soligo, not quite as much. Does have the Zhonya's Hourglass in inventory. That means he's got an item, and Bang has an item that are both upgradable by Bjorn.
But Deathcap is done. And you're now Deathcap plus the Spellbinder. This is a heavy, heavy flat AP build. Level 16, maxed out on that ultimate. You are insanely powerful. There is that Molten Edge upgrade coming through for Bang, so he is going to be monstrously strong as well. But he will have to be very careful because you can get one comboed as well by Crown here. So you have to make sure that your spell shield timing is on point and that you are potentially not even in range of Crown, because Crown is going to be looking. You can see him hovering around the side here for a potential flank. That's what he's going to want to try to do.
Everybody but Soligo's around this upper river area right now. You can see Someday just gave the item upgrade to Afromu.
Yeah.
They must be wanting to upgrade a different item for Soligo aside from the Zhonya's.
Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe he gets a death cap or something, and you upgrade that for more AP.
Here we go.
We got a fight breaking out right now. Dokla has to flash away from the Ornn Horn. Big initiation tool expended there on the side of 100 Thieves. Crown now looking to go into the back line. Going to be cut off before he's able to find his way in there. Soligo off to the side, also going to be controlled now, having to go into the stasis plus the smoke. Meteos wants to escape. Dokla's going to be rooted up, and that's the target now from the side of 100 Thieves. They've got the damage down, and they will take themselves a kill.
Yeah, they get that kill. They get the flash off of Meteos, and they forced that flash off Dokla previously with the Ornn ultimate, and OpTic decided to take that window to try to force a fight. But Crown was never really able to get into that backline. He was peeled very effectively by the rest of the squad, and if Bang is not threatened in these fights, he is going to run over you. So certainly OpTic have to be very careful now, but there is no vision on this Baron for OpTic, and it looks like they have started up. You can see those animations. Soligo is sitting on the side, and now OpTic is aware of it.
Soligo over the wall, seeing what he can do, but here comes the rest of the team to make sure OpTic's not able to interfere. Big Spider-Man hooks his way away from this one, but that is OpTic stopping the Baron attempt of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, they do stop that, but it is a flash forced off of OpTic. 100 Thieves did not want a 50-50 here against Meteos, so they take the turn, they force out another summoner, and now you're looking at 3 members here on OpTic who do not have their flashes, who should be easy pickings for the Soren ultimate that is just about to come up.
Worth pointing out, Ornn upgraded the Akali Hourglass anyway, so we've got that going on. Double Hourglass upgrades on this team. Molten Edge upgrade for the Sivir. 2 items in the Ornn's backpack. Everybody's looking nice and shiny here on the side of 100 Thieves, going up against OpTic Gaming, and I feel like we're at the point where the gold is just really not that important anymore, because we're seeing 100 Thieves win these fights by playing them better.
And even when you're just taking into consideration all the added value of these Ornn upgrades, 100 Thieves probably has more stats essentially in the bags despite the gold lead. It's generally around 1K per item there. There are 5 on their squad, so you're putting them slightly ahead, if not even, in the gold there. They both have the same dragons. It's really down to execution. It's down to team composition at this point in the game. So OpTic out to the side lane. They have both their solos down here, so they may try to actually pull off some sort of really aggressive play, but 100 Thieves are just on the Baron, 2-manning it right now.
100 Thieves making a 2-man call, saying we doubt OpTic will recognize in time that we can do this with just Amazing and Bang. Sunday's trying to get himself out of town as quickly as possible, avoiding the engage from the solo laners on the side of OpTic. Soligo tries to escape from OpTic's follow-up, as 100 Thieves will take the Baron and lose their tier 3 bottom lane in trade.
Yeah, and OpTic has to go in full retreat now. Remember, Big no flash.
Nice escape there from Big from the Sejuani ulti, but he won't be able to escape the follow-up. Meteo's coming in, able to find the Cataclysm on a couple different targets, disengaging now. Crown into the back lines, finding the Hemo Plague onto multiple targets. Into the pool he goes, trying to find a little bit more damage. Soligo's taken very low, and they're able to find Bang. They're going to find Amazing. They're almost going to find Soligo. Someday barely getting himself out alive. Crown looking to find the rest of the damage onto him. Double kill over to the Jace. And 100 Thieves will lose 4.
What a team fight there. Double TP, and they're actually looking to TP to the bot lane and potentially end through bot. It's only Aphromoo alive. The inhibitor tower is already down. OpTic will try to close this out. Aphromoo has to cut the wave here and try to clear this out as fast as possible.
20 seconds on Amazing and Bang. OpTic Gaming moving into the base. Meteos is going to die to a minion. That's not what you wanted to see. But Arrow and Dokla are on to the Nexus turrets. Number 1, destroyed. Number 2, destroyed. 100 Thieves dismantled, and OpTic Gaming will but instead they all agreed on the same path. They took it and they won.
Yeah, they definitely did. I mean, they were willing to commit to those sorts of plays, certainly. And Meteos with a funny death. His only death in the game is executing the turret and the minions there. So you got to love that. But, 100 Thieves, it's got to be a frustrating loss for them. Again, off to a bit of a rough start here. Yesterday, certainly, and really today, Amazing just has arrived. But this was a very winnable game. It was a better played game from them than yesterday. They were very competitive with OpTic throughout most of this game. It felt like they had their stuff together in a lot of these team fights, but that one team fight that they lost after the Baron, perhaps regretting not just resetting. When the double TP came through, you know, Crown really carried that fight.
And as we had an explosive ending to the game, we actually have a pro view replay from the perspective of Dokla as to how he made the TP happen here at the end.
Yeah, so this is that double TP play. They're both going to the same ward that was dropped. You know, Big is already down as they do arrive. And watch Crown flashing into the rest of the team. The Shock Blast onto Bang as well, putting him at full threat. It is both solo laners diving onto Bang. They know he is really what they have to deal with. That is the massive threat. It was not about Soligo. So when they get on top of him, when those battle lines start to crumble from 100 Thieves, there's really nothing left. You know, it's all about Bang at that stage in the game. So that was really well played and really well coordinated from those solo laners, and that bodes well for OpTic season.
And I liked how as soon as Dokla saw the entire just symphony of everything exploding, he was like, nope, we're going to back up for a second. And he was like, there's my guy. As soon as that 80 carry went into stasis, he's like, I'm coming for you. Yep. That's exactly what your Jace needs to be doing. But for more on the day, let's send it over to the LCS cooldown.